Yamanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivanadhari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivanadhari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pavika Rajacharya Shota Shota Shishimat His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Hare Krishna Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya All right, so we're reading from Canto 2, Chapter 10, Text 41. And you're in charge of the... Okay. Jiddu, 1 second. So, Vishnu Prabhu might be calling. Depends on like how he's feeling. Can you just bring that chair in the back and just bring it like closer up here for him? So, okay. So, word for word. Sattvam Rajaha Tamaha Iti Tishraha Shura Nri Narakaha Tatra Api Ekai Kashaha Rajan Vidyante Katayaha Trida Yada Ekai Kantaraha Anyabhyam Swabhavaha Upahanjete. Okay. Sattvam Rajastama Iti Tisra Sura Nunak Rakaha Chatapye Kai Kashorajan Vidyante Gatayastrida Yadai Kai Kataro Nyabhyam Sabhava Upahanjate Sattvam Rajastama Iti Tisra Sura Nirnarakaha
Tatapye kai kashorajan Vidyante gatayastrida Yadaikai Yadaikai kataro nyabhyam Sabhava upahanyate Sattvam rajastama iti Vishrasura nirnarakaha Tatrapye kai kashorajan Vidyante gatayastrida Hidaikai kataro nyabhyam Subhava upahanyate. Alrighty.
Sattvam rajastama iti
Oh.
Tisra sura nirnarakaha Tatrapye kaikashurajan Vidyante gatayastridha Yadaikaikataronyabhyam Svabhava upahanyate Sattvam rajastama iti Srasura nirnarakaha Tatrapye kaikashurajan Vidyante gatayastridha Sattvam rajastama iti Tisra sura nirnarakaha Tatrapye kaikashurajan Vidyante gatayastridha Yadaikaikataronyabhyam Svabhava upahanyate
Madhujis?
Sattvam rajastama iti
Alrighty. Word for word. So, Sattvam, the mode of goodness. Rajaha, mode of passion. Tamaha, the mode of darkness. Iti, thus. Tishraha, the three. Sura, demigod. Nre, human being. Narakaha, one who is suffering hellish conditions. Tatra api, even there. Ikai kashaha, another. Rajan, O king. Vidyante, divide into. Gatayaha, movements. Tridha, three. Yada, at that time. Ekai kantaraha, one in relation with another. Anyabhyam, from the other. Swabhavaha, habit. Ubahanyate, develops. Okay, translation of purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Okay. According to the different modes of material nature, the mode of goodness, the mode of passion, and the mode of darkness, there are different living creatures who are known as demigods, human beings, and hellish living entities. O king, even a particular mode of nature, being mixed with the other two, is divided into three, and thus each kind of living creature is influenced by the other modes and acquires its habits also. Purport. Living entities individually are conducted by a particular mode of nature, but at the same time, there is every chance of their being influenced by the other two. Generally, all conditioned souls in material engagement are influenced by the mode of passion because every one of them is trying to lord it over the material nature to fulfill his individual desire. But in spite of the individual mode of passion, there is always a chance of being influenced by the other modes of nature by association. If one is in good association, he can develop the mode of goodness, and if in bad association, he may develop the mode of darkness or ignorance. Nothing is stereotyped. One can change his habit by good or bad association, and one has to become intelligent enough to discriminate between good and bad. The best association is the service of the devotees of the Lord, and by that association one can become the highest qualified man by the grace of the Lord's pure devotees. As we have already seen in the life of Srila Narada Muni, he became the topmost devotee of the Lord simply by the association of pure devotees of the Lord. By birth, he was the son of a maidservant and had no knowledge of his father and no academic education, even of the lowest status. But simply by associating with the devotees and by eating the remnants of their foodstuff, he gradually developed the transcendental qualities of the devotees. By such association, his taste for chanting and hearing the transcendental glories of the Lord became prominent. And because the glories of the Lord are non-different from the Lord, he got direct association with the Lord by means of sound representation. Similarly, there is the life of Ajamil, 6th canto, who was the son of a Brahmana and was educated and trained properly in the discharge of the duties of a Brahmana, but who, in spite of all this, because he contacted the bad association of a prostitute, was put into the path of the lowest quality of Chandal, or the last position for a human being. Therefore, the Bhagavatam always recommends the association of the Mahat, or the great soul, for opening the gate of salvation. To associate with persons engaged in lording it over material world means to enter the darkest region of hell. One should try to raise himself by the association of the great soul. That is the way of the perfection of life. Om Ganatamansya Gananjanjana Salakaya Chakshurunitam Yena Tashmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutade Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yukta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Scha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganaftam Mitam Tam Shajivam Savadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saritam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Laritam Shri Vishakam Mitam Cha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivikas Swaminiti Namane Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Patarine Nivishesha Shunivadi Pashkastada Satarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, so Sattvam Rajas Tama Iti Tishra Shura Na Kaha Tatjap Ye Kai Kashorajan Vidyante Gatayas Trida Yaidai Kai Kataro Nyavyam Sabhava Upahanyate. According to the different modes of material nature, the mode of goodness, the mode of passion, and the mode of darkness, there are different living creatures who are known as demigods, human beings, and hellish living entities. O king, even a particular mode of nature, being mixed with the other two, is divided into three, and thus each kind of living creature is influenced by the other modes and acquires its habits also. Drink a little water real quick. So, this is a nice verse in particular today. So the Bhagavatam, in and of itself, doesn't really explain so much about the three modes of material nature. It touches up a little bit in the 11th canto. The idea is that those who are approaching the Bhagavatam already, they have some understanding of the three modes of material nature. So I won't go so much in the modes of material nature. I'll talk about them a little bit today because Prabhupada makes a point about the mode of passion. But the modes of material nature are, they're, how to describe them exactly, but they're like, I should have thought about this before. I guess I would describe, Prabhupada describes them as like ropes, a guna, like that they bound the living entity, but they're like qualities or atmospheres or however you want to say it, but they influence the living entity according to his activity or like that. It's a complicated subject actually. Krishna mentions it extensively in the Bhagavad Gita, and he describes that these different modes, they have different qualities, and if the living entity associates with them, he has different outcomes. Some are materially good, some are not like knowledge and things like that, and then passion is generally understood as like building up material things, and then ignorance is just just darkness, just sleep. So particularly in this verse today, or not particularly in this verse, but previously we were discussing about Sarga, which is the first creation, and now there's some information given about Visarga, the secondary creation. And we can understand that, specifically in the previous verse, it was talking about these different living entities that are created. Daksha, Vaivasvatamanu, Indra, Chandra, Varuna, human beings, all these different things were made, which is the secondary creation. Visarga. So this verse in particular is the text in and of itself is making the point that there's different modes of material nature and different living entities are influenced by them. And the Bhagavad Gita also mentions that. I'll just read a couple texts here from that talks about the different modes. So these are some nice verses actually. So Rajas Tamas Chabid Bidbhuya Sattvam Bhavati Bharata Rajas Sattvam Tamas Chaiva Tamas Sattvam Rajas Tata. And so this translation is, sometimes the mode of goodness becomes prominent, defeating the modes of passion and ignorance, O son of Bharata. Sometimes the mode of passion defeats goodness and ignorance, and at other times, ignorance defeats goodness and passion. In this way, there is always competition for supremacy. Srila Prabhupada was making that point in the purport. In different words, he was explaining that, like saying that it's not just like there's just one mode that this person's purely in the mode of goodness or purely in the mode of passion, but it's a whole mix-up of things. And we can see that, like generally, like if someone is, peaceful and like intelligent or whatever, I'm just speaking in a general way, and they're not longing for material things, and we generally say, oh, that person's in the mode of goodness. But if someone is like running here, running there, and very much interested in like making a lot of money and like being super active and sleeping like 1 or 2 hours, and they're just so focused on just like being a material excess, and we would say, oh, that person's in the mode of passion. And then if we were to see somebody that's knocked out under a bridge in 5 o'clock traffic with all the horns blaring, and then the construction going on right next, and they're right next by, and they're just happily sleeping, or whatever on downtown somewhere, and then we say, oh, that person is the mode of ignorance. So like that. So that's kind of like some understanding. So different living entities are in different modes. Srila Prabhupada makes a point in here, swabhava, so habit. And that can be translated in many different ways, and that's a big topic in the Bhagavad Gita, and just in general of understanding one's nature. Prabhupada mentions that. I think he mentioned that briefly. I'm trying to see exactly where, but let me see here. But anyways, I can't find out exactly. But it's just understood that we come into this material, or when we take birth in this body, we're influenced by different modes. We have a particular way of thinking and way of acting and things like that. So, and we acquire that material conditioning from the previous life of the modes that we associate with and nature and of such. And so all these things can be analyzed in great detail. But the understanding is that these modes influence us, and in order to, we'll talk about that, but the point is that we have to rise above these modes. Prabhupada warns in this purport specifically about the mode of passion. He says here that I'm trying to find exactly, but he specifically singles out that one. Okay, so he says, so generally all conditioned souls in the material engagement are influenced by the mode of passion because every one of them is trying to lord it over material nature to fill his individual desire. So he kind of highlights that. I thought that was interesting, actually. They were saying everybody's influenced by the mode of passion because there's that desire to, be the boss of the material world, to be the controller, to be the influencer, to enjoy in whatever way. Sometimes it's a big way, sometimes it's a small way. Someone wants to, be the lord of, their house, or someone wants to be the lord of, the city, or the lord of the country. And then some people want to be the lord of the whole planet. And then we have, in the Bhagavatam, we see like Hiranyakashipu, he wanted to be the lord of the whole universe. So that factor is there with the living entities. So I'll read just a couple verses about the mode of passion, just to give some more light into that. And We've heard this before, but it's good to hear it again. And it's important to understand what these modes are. I think, let me see here if Krishna makes this point in the beginning of this chapter. But so Krishna makes this point in the beginning of his description of the three modes of material nature. He says, again, I shall declare to you the supreme wisdom, the best of all knowledge, knowing which all the sages have attained supreme perfection. So Krishna is making the point that if we understand the modes of material nature, we can become perfect. By becoming fixed in this knowledge, one can attain transcendental nature like my own. Thus established, one is not born at the time of creation or disturbed at the time of dissolution. So we can understand that to understand what the modes of material nature are, how they're influencing the world or how they're influencing us, is something important, actually, and cultivating Krishna consciousness. So I'll just read a couple verses. So this is chapter 14, text. What's this here? Text 7. So the translation is, the mode of passion is born of unlimited desires and longings, O son of Kunti. And because of this, the embodied living entity is bound to material fruitive actions. So maybe that's something that we can relate with, this desiring and longing, especially, I mean, that's more or less people, that there's just unlimited desires and longings. Because the thing is, with material desires, there's no point where it's like, oh, I'm satisfied, like I achieved, what such and such thing that I wanted in society, so therefore I'm content. I finally made it. I made $1 million, so therefore I don't want to make any more money. We don't see that so much. Usually the situation is that whatever people they engage in, they just keep more and more in doing it and doing it and doing it. It's like generally people, they just don't smoke one cigarette and they think, okay, I'm satisfied for life, I got that experience. But then generally they become addicted and they just keep smoking and smoking and smoking. And then whatever, then some people get to the habit of smoking a pack of cigarettes a day, So there's no satiation on the mode of passion that, okay, now I'm satisfied. And then longing also, like I need it, or whatever, fiending like that. This is extreme hankering. And then because of that hankering, then there's a dissatisfaction. Whatever situation one is always longing. And then they have that saying that the grass is always greener on the other side, that, if it was just on, this side of the block, then I would be happy. Because the way that the sun rises in the morning, it comes in my room and disturbs my sleep. So if I was living on the other side of the street, it'd be better. And then one goes on the other side of the street, and then the neighbor has a dog, and the dog's barking in the morning. And then whatever. Well, if I lived on this part of town, it'd be better. And then they develop that part of town, and then it gets worse. So then in this way, this is the material world, actually. Specifically in the Western world, because people are not taught to be, they're not taught about austerity. That we're taught at a young age that if there's some material inconvenience, you have to adjust that situation, whatever it is. If it's too hot, then you have to get an AC to make it cold. And then if it's too cold, got to get a heater, There's no conception of just tolerating material inconveniences. We see that in parts of the world that are more developed spiritually, like India and such places, that people generally they would practice tapasya. If there was something that was the matter or some material problem, they would just tolerate, whatever. It's just okay. It's too cold, then get a blanket. It's too hot, whatever. Then sleep in the hot part of the day. They wouldn't make some big fancy arrangement. You just keep things simple. Okay, whatever. This part of the world. Apples don't grow? Okay, we don't eat apples. It wasn't like, okay, apples don't grow, so we need to ship apples from this part of the world. It's like everything we get, bananas from Ecuador, potatoes from Idaho. It's like everything is sourced from another place. There's no local products, except maybe honey. It's the only thing that's local generally in every state. They have local honey. But then, if everything goes to hell, then it's you can't. I don't know if you can live off honey. So, anyways, but the people in spiritual cultures, they would just tolerate. So this mode of passion generally wouldn't be so prevalent, or it would be curbed. Just reading a little bit more about the mode of passion. So this is text 12. So Krishna goes on to explain further. O chief of the Bharatas, when there is an increase in the mode of passion, the symptoms of great attachment, fruit of activity, intense endeavor, and uncontrollable desire and hankering develop. So that's important to note also. If we are practicing Krishna consciousness, and any one of these modes can influence us, even the mode of goodness is also, we have to transcend that. But specifically, these modes of passion and ignorance will severely hamper our Krishna consciousness. So if we're practicing Krishna consciousness and we're seeing some of these symptoms here, great attachment to, not to Krishna, great attachment to material things, or intense desire, or endeavor on material things, or uncontrollable, or hankering for some situation like that. If we're practicing Krishna consciousness, things are coming up on the material platform, then we're being influenced by the mode of passion. So we have to recognize that, and we have to come out of that. And there's different ways that can manifest. I'll just speak in a general way as of now. So I'll read a little bit more here. So anyways, there's so many different things about that. I'm going to go to the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Let me see here. Just read a couple things from there. So, this is a nice one. So this is 18:8. Anyone who gives up prescribed duties as troublesome or out of fear of bodily discomfort is said to have renounced in the mode of passion. Such action never leads to the elevation of renunciation. So in this chapter, there's actually a lot of good points about the modes of material nature in the 18th chapter. I used to read them regularly, a lot of them actually, specifically the modes of goodness when I used to stay in New York to get some inspiration when I was on a break practically every day. So this mode of passion here, this is a good one. So we can very much learn from this. If we're practicing Krishna consciousness, or we're given some service to do, whatever it can be, like book distribution, and then we call up the Sankirtan leader and we say, I can't distribute books. It's just too difficult. Then we can understand this mode of passion. The people are being mean to me. I went to, a guy told me to, he impolitely told me to get out of his face. And, it's difficult. Nobody's taking books. It's difficult. It's difficult for my body, My mind hurts and my ego hurts. I'm feeling so much mental pain. It hurts. Every step I take, I'm getting a headache. And then if we give up, it's the mode of passion. And then, as Krishna says here, such action never leads to the elevation of renunciation. So we understand that proper renunciation is doing everything with the service of Krishna. And so anyways, and Prabhupada gives some examples here. He says in the purport, so one who is Krishna conscious should not give up earning money out of fear that he's performing frivolous activities. So anyways, that's a revolutionary statement there. So anyways, it's not that, Prabhupada's giving the proper understanding of what Krishna consciousness actually is, that, giving everything for the service of Krishna. So I become Krishna conscious, therefore I have nothing more to do with money, I renounce it. There was a story I heard, I don't know if it's actually true, it's one of those Prabhupada memories, I'm pretty sure it's true, but there was one yogi, and they were like glorifying him, that he's very renounced, that like somebody came to give him money, and he was like, no, he like pushed it away. Like that. And then Prabhupada was joking that if someone gives me money, I'll take both hands and like pull it towards me. Because you use it for Krishna service. It's not that, we're so renowned. Someone's like, I want to give you, $10 billion. And we're like, oh, millions of dollars have nothing to do with that. Then we rip the check up. And they're like, wow, this guy is so spiritual. He just ripped up $10 billion check, as nonsense, as bogus. The thing is that Lakshmi is, she's the energy of Krishna. She's Krishna's consort. So she's with Vishnu always. And so Lakshmi is engaged in Krishna service. Just also similarly too, we don't worship Lakshmi separately. It's like recently, anyways. But like for instance, like we don't have just like pictures up of just Radha like that or just Krishna. It's always we worship them together, Radha and Krishna, not just like that. So anyways, we use everything in Krishna service. Prabhupada also mentions here in the purport about rising early. So it's not that I'm not going to rise early because it's too difficult or whatever. So mode of passion. So anything in Krishna consciousness, if we're influenced by the mode of passion or we want to give things up as difficult, we won't actually advance properly. And anyways, mode of passion it's good in the beginning and then it's bad in the end. And we'll read that verse also. So there's a couple things just to reflect on. There's so many things like that. I'll read another one here. This is from it's the 34th verse. So anyways, I'm just focusing on the mode of passion now. So, but that determination by which one, this is a mode of, is this passion? Yeah, so that determination by which one holds fast to fruitive results in religion, economic development, and sense gratification is the nature of the mode of passion. And then, so Prabhupada says in the purport, just read it, it's a short one. Any person who is always desirous of fruitive results in religion or economic activities, whose only desire is sense gratification, and whose mind, life, and senses are thus engaged is in the mode of passion. So similarly, we can understand that also for executing Krishna consciousness, but then, we're like, and we can see that sometimes it comes out. Somebody, moves into the temple and they're really determined to like stay in the temple or be in the temple. I don't see that with anybody here. They're really, I want to be in the temple. I want to be Krishna conscious. I want to be a devotee. But then it's like seen as time goes on that the only reason they're in the temple is because they wanted something materially. They wanted a comfortable situation. And, for instance, maybe where they were living at, it's like the living conditions are super abominable. And if they go and live in the temple, they'll get ample food and they'll get a nice place to sleep. And then there's air conditioning and it'll be easier materially. So then they're really determined to be Krishna conscious in the sense that they just want material facilities. Or someone could be, whatever, chanting certain japa with the idea, praying to Krishna, give me money, or whatever it is. They're very determined to do that. But their whole determination isn't based on the platform of pleasing Krishna or really much anything to do with Krishna. It may be somewhat connected, but their whole idea is that they want sense gratification, that they want some fruitive results. They want to enjoy it. And then as soon as they don't get it, they give it up immediately. And then there's that famous story told by I think Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur of this great devotee who used to always chant Gauranga's names. So he was always, and people would glorify him, he's such a great devotee, he's such a great devotee. And then his daughter was, she had some disease and she was dying. So he's playing, to Gauranga with great, veneration and feeling. And so anyways, what happened, his daughter died. And so then he's like, I don't believe in any Gauranga. Like he would never let my daughter die. This is nonsense. So his whole worship of Lord Chaitanya was based on, give me this. And as soon as he didn't get it, he gave it up. So this is mode of passion. So, and then also this is the last one, but this is a classic. And we probably have all heard this one before. This is also a verse I need to memorize because I have full experience of it. So, Visaya Indriya Samyogad Yet Tad Agre Matopanam Pariname Vishamiva Tatsukam Rajasam Shmiti. So this is a really important verse. So that happiness which is derived from contact of the senses with their objects and which appears like nectar at first but poison at the end is said to be of the nature of passion. So that that is good. So we can always think about that. You know, this thing I'm doing may be very good right now, but is it good in the long term? We should always consider that actually. A lot of devotees, one particularly, but he would always stress the point to me about, okay, like be sure to take care of your health. You know, like if you're on Sankirtan or you're doing books, like make sure you're taking your meals at the right time, and like, you know, you're eating a balanced diet and things like that. Don't eat too many sweets and things. And he was just saying that, you know, when he was young, he neglected his health in a lot of ways. So he would instruct in that way. And anyways, for some point in my life, I definitely neglected my health in the fuel of Sankirtan. But anyways, I think that kind of happens with most devotees. And sometimes it's kind of inevitable, because what to do? It's to travel in much ways is an inconvenience, and what to speak of living in a car. So Prabhupada here famously gives the height of the mode of passion, and he describes about how the attraction between a young man and a young woman. So anyways, so pretty much Prabhupada, I'll just read it. So a young man and a young woman meet, and the senses drive the young man to see her, to touch her, and to have sexual intercourse. In the beginning, this may be very pleasing to the senses, but at the end, or after some time, it becomes just like poison. They are separated, or there is divorce, there is lamentation, there is sorrow, etc. Such happiness is always in the mode of passion. Happiness derived from a combination of the senses and the sense object is always a cause of distress and should be avoided by all means. That last sentence, I just remembered, but I had like different sentences from Srila Prabhupada's purports on a note card, and I would read them regularly. And this was one of them, actually. Happiness derived from a combination of the senses and sense object is always a cause of distress and should be avoided by all means. So that's definitely a mantra we can live by. Of course, there's big, high topics, but then bringing it back home, we should remember that by trying to enjoy our senses on the material platform is always a cause of distress. It's not that it's, well, sometimes, it may be, and just, it's time, place, and circumstance, right? There's a certain time, place, and circumstance where you can get your sense gratification, and it's nectar, right? No, not according to the Bhagavad Gita. Of course, there's happiness in devotional service and engaging our senses in the service of Krishna. But if we disassociate ourselves from that and engage our senses independently of Krishna, then there won't be any happiness there. There will be distress. And so Srila Prabhupada gives the pinnacle of material happiness, the attraction between a man and a woman. And I'm sure we've all seen that in our lives, maybe, or maybe in other people's lives, of a man and a woman falling in love together, and then just distress coming from that. And there's so many instances of that going on in life. So it's just like, it's nectar in the beginning, but it's just like poison. Whereas the mode of goodness it's difficult at first, but in the end, it's very much, there's very much happiness to be found there, which the verse previous to that mentions that point. And so Krishna consciousness, for the most part, is like that, especially if we're not trained to the process. That is difficult. It's difficult to rise early. It's difficult to go out on Sankirtan. It's difficult to, and then there's even within that. When it's cold, it's difficult to distribute books, and when it's cold, it's difficult to take a shower, and it's difficult to it's difficult to do so many different things in Krishna consciousness. But the thing is that if we stay determined and we stay focused on that, then we will receive the mercy of the Vaishnavas, of the spiritual master of Krishna, and then we'll begin to experience happiness. But it won't just be a happiness of the mode of goodness, but it'll be a transcendental happiness which comes from pleasing Krishna. It'll be spiritual happiness. And that happiness will inspire us to further commit to the process of Krishna consciousness and to keep going on in the path. And so that's the happiness that we're looking for, the transcendental position. And so I'll read the purport of the previous verse that Prabhupada says. So I'll just read the translation also. So that which in the beginning may be like poison, but at the end is just like nectar, and which awakens one to self-realization, is said to be happiness in the mode of goodness. In the pursuit of self-realization, this is the purport, one has to follow many rules and regulations to control the mind and the senses, and to concentrate the mind on the self. All these procedures are very difficult, bitter like poison, but if one is successful in following the regulations and comes to the transcendental position, he begins to drink real nectar and he enjoys life. So this is the way to enjoy life, that we have to become Krishna conscious. And we have to be careful of these modes. So just going on to the next point. So Srila Prabhupada, similarly in this purport, stresses, and it's interesting actually because if you look at the translation in and of himself in the context of the verse, one of the points that Srila Prabhupada emphasizes, it may not be so blatant from reading the text, but Prabhupada stresses the importance actually of association in this verse actually, which is another one of those, practically I would say it's one of the pillars of Krishna consciousness, association. It's intrinsic to Krishna consciousness. You can't be Krishna conscious by yourself in a cave or whatever in your house down the street and you just never associate with devotees or whatever. Generally people aren't living in caves these days, but in an apartment or something. We need the association of devotees actually. And association is very powerful. And of course, there's good association and there's bad association. And I'll read one verse about bad association, and then I'll discuss about good association. So I don't know if you want to pull this up, but it's Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 31, Text 32. And then I'll read 33 also. So this verse in particular here is talking about bad association. So I think I went the wrong chapter. So this is instructions of Kapila Dev in the third canto. So I'll just read that text there. So text 32. So if therefore the living entity again associates with the path of unrighteousness, influenced by sensually minded people, engaged in the pursuit of sexual enjoyment and the gratification of the palate, he again goes to hell as before. So the next text, he becomes devoid of truthfulness, cleanliness, mercy, gravity, spiritual intelligence, shyness, austerity, fame, forgiveness, control of the mind, control of the senses, fortune, and all such opportunities. So the result of having bad association is we lose, so many nice qualities, and it can be seen also. And Prabhupada makes the point in this purport. I mean, he mentions a jamil, but then also too. I mean, I know directly for sure. I mean, seeing it in my own life of having bad association. Just like going to karmi school and then getting karmi friends and then just learning how to be a big demon, and so many things like that. But so Srila Prabhupada in this purport, he gives the example of a Jamil and Narada Muni actually. So a Jamil, for those that don't know the story, he was a Brahmin and he was mode of goodness, everything like that, doing his duties. But then he became distracted. It's described that one day that he was I don't know exactly what he was doing, but I think he was walking through the woods or something, and he saw one man embracing a prostitute, which is a disturbing scene to see. No matter what age it is or where you're at in the world. So he saw that and his mind was disturbed. And so he wasn't able to get over that, and that really disturbed his mind. And so it's described that he went and he found that prostitute and brought her home and kicked his wife out and just became very low class and started like gambling and all these things, and he just gave up his Brahminical culture. And ultimately, I mean, he took up to Krishna consciousness and he was saved. But the point is that from that position, he was influenced by the mode of passion and ignorance and came down. So the Srimad Bhagavatam is telling that story for multiple reasons. One obvious reason, one of the main reasons is that the power of the holy name, but another reason is that it's an instruction for us to keep in mind the power of the mode of passion and how the mind can drag us down. And that was that was discussed in the fifth canto, the power of the mind. And so the Srimad Bhagavatam gives there's so many different points that are told in these these histories. They're not just like stories, like story time, but they're points for us to meditate upon and to reflect and to understand where we're at and to learn from, so that ultimately we can achieve the goal of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the ripened fruit of all the Vedas, which was established in the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So that's the central point of the text, is so that we can become Krishna conscious. So we can learn from that story of a Jamil in that way, and be careful. So continuing. So I'll read now from what is this? So I'll read from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So this is Anchilila, chapter 1, text 32. And so this is I think about this a lot, actually. So this is a nice pastime. Okay. So I'll read the translation, and then I'll talk about a little bit of the context. Yeah, you got it. So the next day, no one saw that dog, for it had obtained its spiritual body and departed for Vaikuntha, the spiritual kingdom. So this particular text is discussing, so Sivananda Sena had a dog that he was traveling around with, and it's a very nice story, actually, but to keep it short, so he was maintaining that dog very nicely and traveling and like that, and he took a liking to that dog. And so anyways, the dog wasn't given his food, and then it left. And so Shivananda Sena was fried out about it. And just like, this dog has taken shelter of me, and like now he's gone away. And so anyways, the devotees one day saw that Lord Chaitanya was feeding that dog. So anyways, there's this verse here. And so this dog actually went back to Godhead. And so I'll read the purport here. It's a nice purport also. So Prabhupada makes the point. So this is the result of sadhu sangha. Consequent association with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and promotion back to Godhead. This result is possible even for a dog by the mercy of the Vaishnava. Therefore, everyone in the human form of life should be induced to associate with devotees. By rendering a little service, even by eating prasadam, what to speak of chanting and dancing, everyone can be promoted to Vaikuntha Loka. It is therefore requested that all our devotees in the ISKCON community become pure Vaishnavas, so that by their mercy all the people of the world will be transferred to Vaikuntha Loka, even without their knowledge. That's interesting. Everyone should be given a chance to take prasadam and thus be induced to chant the holy names Hare Krishna and also dance in ecstasy. By these three processes, although performed without knowledge or education, even an animal went back to Godhead. So that's pretty inspirational. There's also some instruction for us. So Prabhupada makes the point here that we should become pure Vaishnavas, and then by our mercy, people will go back to Godhead even without their knowledge. So that's some high-level preaching, and it's very inspiring, actually. And so he makes the point here that people should be given an opportunity to take prasadam, to chant the holy names, and then also to dance in ecstasy. And then by engaging in these activities, they'll go back to Godhead. And he specifically makes the point here that even an animal was able to do that. So the reason I'll talk a little bit about Narada Muni, but the one reason that I brought up this instance with the dog is that it kind of really makes the clear distinction, the power of association, actually, because the Jamil, by bad association, he went down far and down fast. But even a dog, an unqualified animal, went to the highest rungs of Krishna consciousness by good association. So association is key, is very powerful and very important in Krishna consciousness. The example given in the purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions about Narada Muni. So I won't discuss that so much. But Narada Muni also similarly had the association of devotees. It's mentioned in the purport that he didn't know who he was the son of a maidservant. He didn't know who his father was, and he had no academic education. So materially speaking, he wasn't doing so good. So there's no bar actually in Krishna consciousness to achieve the topmost perfection. There's also that verse by Narada Muni. What is this? I think it's Manye Danami Jana Rupa Tapaushatajas Tejas Pavada Parapodusha Buddha Yoga Naradanahi Bhavanti Parashipumso Bhaktyata Tosha Bhagavan Gajayutapaya. So anyways, the point in that verse is that one may have so many different material opulences or qualifications, but Gajendra, who had no material qualifications. Gajendra wasn't rolling in money. He didn't have birth of a high family. He wasn't very scholarly. But simply by devotional service, he was able to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the point is that the Supreme Personality of Godhead isn't pleased by material opulences, but he's pleased by the sincere service attitude of the devotee, which is available in all aspects of life. Doesn't have to be, attain some big material qualification. So Srila Narada Muni, in a previous life, he was able to get the association of devotees of the Lord and please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so Prabhupada mentions here that he was So he associated with devotees, he ate their remnants, and by that association, he developed the qualities of a devotee. And by that association, his taste and hearing the glories of the Lord became prominent, and in this way, so he made advancement in Krishna consciousness. Of course, Narada Muni is a pure devotee of the Lord, but similarly, this pastime is there yet again for us to learn from and to reflect upon. So it's, anyways, to going back to the point, so it's definitely a stark difference from, Brahmana, highly qualified, and then we have the example of Narada Muni, who materially wasn't so well off, and also to of this dog going back home, back to Godhead. So association is very essential in Krishna consciousness, and we should remember that. We should never forget that. Srila Prabhupada also mentions, and you could pull this up here if you want. So it's Canto 6, chapter, let's see, chapter 2, text 34. Let me see here. Yeah, that's it. So we should always keep this in mind, the power of association. And then always, too, in the sense, remember, where we came from in Krishna consciousness. So I'll read a little bit of this purport here. Prabhupada kind of highlights that point. So I'll read the purport. This is it. So, so this is in relation to Ajamil after he had his change of heart. So those engaged in broadcasting the holy name of Narayan, Krishna, through the Krishna conscious movement, should always consider what our position was before we came and what it is now. We had fallen into abominable lives as meat-eaters, drunkards, and women hunters, who performed all kinds of sinful activities. But now we have been given the opportunity to chant the Hare Krishna mantra. Therefore, we should always appreciate this opportunity. By the grace of the Lord, we are opening many branches, and we should use this good fortune to chant the holy name of the Lord and serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly. We must be conscious of the difference between our present and past conditions and should always be careful not to fall from the most exalted life. So I've always remembered this purport actually when I read it in Srila Prabhupada's books because it's very unique purport in the sense that he doesn't, Srila Prabhupada in certain places, if we read all of his books, we'll see that he, in certain texts and things, he has certain moods and he makes points in certain texts that he doesn't make in any other points. So particularly in this point, in this text, he really brings out the point about remembering, what our situation was before Krishna consciousness, recognizing that, and then being thankful for the opportunity that we have now, and then being serious to stick in this good association. And be careful not to fall down from Krishna consciousness. He makes the point at the end of the sentence that we must be conscious of the difference between our present and past conditions, and should always be very careful not to fall down from the most exalted life. It's important to, not that it's a meditation, every single day we wake up and we just think about how much an animal we were before Krishna consciousness, but it's just a little reminder from time to time, because the tendency in the material world is that we're forgetful, but we come to Krishna consciousness and it's all bliss, it's all amazing and this and that, it's new. But then after sometimes we can become a little complacent and a little familiar. And then we forget about, what our situation was outside, Then we think, well, it wasn't that bad actually. I was doing pretty good in the material world and, I had a lot going for me, this and that. But then we forgot about, so many different things. We forgot about, maybe some of us had drug problems, or maybe some of us had, womanizing problems, or, the inverse of that, or whatever it was, or what to speak of all those things, just simply meat eating, or just the kind of activities that we were engaged in. So that may have been our situation, but then we may be thinking, well, I was doing pretty good out there, this, that, the other thing. So we should be cautious of that thought, because then we could be with devotees, and then we start thinking, well, so many things that we can think of actually, that, I'm with devotees, but, then we're finding fault with devotees, or they're not really pure, or whatever it is, or, karmis are better than devotees. We can think so many different funny things. The thing is, the mind has unlimited ways to influence us in the bad direction. And so there's so many different ways that can come about. So I'm just mentioning some signs that we can be careful of. And there's different ways. There's so many different things like that. Or, devotees tell us things and, Prabhu, you should be careful about this, that, and the other thing. And yeah, I've heard it before. I know what you're going to say, Prabhu. Like, like you're in the mode of passion and like your passion, blah, blah, blah. I know it. I've heard it before, or whatever it is, or I know it already. I know what you're going to say. I read the Bhagavad Gita. I read the Bhagavatam. Just like one of my friends, he was a karmi and then he came to Krishna consciousness and then he left. But then, anyways, he read, all the Srila Prabhupada's books and read the whole Bhagavatam, but it was like nothing really like stuck, and then he listened to like Prabhupada's lectures, he would listen on like double speed. This was like before all these little speeds came out. Now it's like kind of like, everybody kind of does that. But he was, he read the whole Bhagavatam, this, that. He knew so much. But the thing is that his knowledge didn't run so deep. Actually, he made some offenses. That's a whole other story. But then that's an offensive attitude if we come into that. And then Krishna removes us from the association out of his mercy so that, we don't cause a big problem and just destroy our Krishna consciousness. And anyways, I don't want to get all about offenses, but just kind of lightly mention that, we're with devotees. Srila Prabhupada is making the point here. That is it's good fortune that we're able to, he mentions here specifically chanting the holy name and serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but we can also extrapolate upon that and just being able to associate with devotees. And there's very many, if we read the books, and we should reflect on what we read also, when we understand the position of the Vaishnavas, actually. We chant there's certain things that we chant every day. One of them is Vanchakalpa Srubhasha, Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha, Patitanam Pavanem, Yo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So what is that verse about? Is that about the devotees that we're with in the temple, or is that about like someone else across the street? Because all devotees that we're with in the temple, they're not Vaishnavas. So we have to have the proper vision and see and understand that devotees in the temple, or the devotees that we know, and we have to practically see and try to meditate upon the qualities that they have. If we see, we may be able to see that they're actually great devotees and great Vaishnavas. That's good. But if we're having trouble seeing that, then we should try to see the good qualities in the devotees. And there's different slokas. I didn't pull them up. I don't really want to. But there's so many different verses that in the Puranas and in the Bhagavad Gita, the Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, even Krishna himself is explaining that his devotees are so dear to him. So then similarly, devotees should be dear to us. And so we may be on the neophyte platform and, fight and things like that. But we should rise above that platform, actually. We should rise above so many things. We should rise above the material conception of life, but we should be respectful to devotees. So anyways, if we have that attitude, then we'll forget and we'll go back onto that. And so we should be careful of that. There's also a verse here. You can pull this up if you want. This is in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 20, text 217. And if you pull that up before me, I will look over there. So this is also, there's a point in the purport. Anyways, you're going to get it. So go down the purport. Scroll down, keep scrolling. There'll be like a big Sanskrit verse. Okay, yeah. So I'm not going to chant this, but this is actually a very famous verse from the Padma Purana. So I'll read the translation. So no one should consider the deity in the temple to be made of stone or wood, nor should one consider the spiritual master an ordinary human being, nor should one consider a Vaishnava to belong to a particular caste or creed, and no one should consider Charnamrit or Ganges water to be like ordinary water, nor should anyone consider the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra to be a material vibration. All these expanses of Krishna in the material world are simply demonstrations of the Lord's mercy and willingness to give facility to his devotees who are engaged in devotional service within the material world. So all these things are there for us. It's not that the deity in the temple, the Krishna Balaram and the spiritual master, and then the Vaishnavas and all those things, that's for somebody else. It's for us. It's for us. We should recognize, we shouldn't read the Shastra and think when Srila Prabhupada's, I heard one devotee explain this, it really stuck with me, but when Prabhupada's talking about neophyte Vaishnavas or materialistic devotees, that's somebody else, that's not me. We should understand that that's probably us, that we might be dealing with those things. So you scroll up a little bit to the Sanskrit. But this word, what is it? Jati Buddhir. It's I've heard different understandings of that. Oh no, so I think Narakasaki. So anyways, but the one translation of this, all these things, this is hellish intelligence. So one's intelligence, but his intelligence is just hellish. You can scroll down, but also specifically here, I want to make the points about Vaishnava. So Vaishnava belonging to a particular caste or creed or whatever, that this is a Sudra Vaishnava and this is a Brahmin Vaishnava. Is very Paka Vaishnava Brahmin, very intelligent, very great sadhu. But this Vaishnava, he's Sudra, or he's Vaishya, he's a Vaishya Vaishnava, he's okay. I mean, he tends the cows, he plants some seeds here and there, but he's not topmost Vaishnava because he's not engaged in brahminical activity. This is crazy. This is materialistic outlook, actually. Or if, this Vaishnava's okay, but, better Vaishnavas actually is Indian Vaishnav. They're better devotees. Because America, not very good. So this is hellish, or you should take initiation from a guru who's from India, because, Indian guru is the best. American guru, not very good, because he's an American. So it's the seeing the bodily conception. And like that. And then also, too, we can get into the thing. There's different things like that, this devotee is not very good because, obviously this devotee is a sannyasi, so, he's a better devotee, and that devotee is a grihasta. He's not advanced or whatever it is, or, this is a Mataji, and she can't, she obviously can't be surrendered in Krishna consciousness because she's a woman. So we have to be aware of these different misconceptions that can happen. And this is a platform of neophyte that they don't understand. They come to the temple and they see Krishna kind of, but then they don't know how to behave with devotees, and they don't know how to see devotees, and all these different things like that. So the point is that devotion is actually what's clear to Krishna. And so anyways, the point is that all these different things are indicative that we're not Krishna conscious, that there's something the matter in our thought process if we're seeing devotees in a materialistic way like that. And so we have to be careful about that. And so we can ask, what the solution is, what should we do, different things like that. So you can bring up this text. This is from the 4th canto, chapter 7, text 10. And so one solution is a joke. No, sorry, Canto 4. Okay, yeah. Chapter 7, text 10. So one solution, anyways, I'm going to make a joke, but I don't want to make a joke. So I'm not going to make that joke. So there's different answers about what the solution can be for that. Many answers, actually. So I'll read this here. So the translation is, so at that time, when Daksha saw Lord Shiva, who rides upon a bull, his heart, which was polluted by envy of Lord Shiva, was immediately cleansed, just as the water in a lake is cleansed by autumn rains. So before I read the purport, I'll give a little context. So Daksha was a devotee, and he was super envious of Lord Shiva, actually. Shiva's a devotee. And so the story goes, in short, that Daksha just vilified Lord Shiva in an assembly in front of everybody. And just, nonsense, you dirty fellow, and just like you dressed in like torn clothes and this and that. He was fried out. And he was envious of Lord Shiva for different reasons. One reason is that he was envious because Shiva was getting more respect than him. That just kind of set it off. But anyways, it's a very amazing pastime, a lot to learn for that also. So Daksha was engaging in, doing his sacrifice and things like that. But he wasn't doing it properly, his devotional service. So what happened was he vilified Lord Shiva, and then he got killed as a result of that. And he also, his daughter committed suicide, and he was just like, whatever, So he was really hard-hearted. And so anyways, we'll read the purport here. So here is an example of why Lord Shiva is called auspicious. If anyone sees Lord Shiva with devotion and reverence, his heart is immediately cleansed. King Daksha was polluted by envy of Lord Shiva, and yet by seeing him with a little love and devotion, his heart immediately became cleansed. In the rainy season, the reservoirs of water become dirty and muddy. But as soon as the autumn rain comes, all the water immediately becomes clear and transparent. Similarly, although Daksha's heart was impure, because of his having slandered Lord Shiva, for which he was severely punished, Daksha had now come to consciousness. And just by seeing Lord Shiva with veneration and respect, he became immediately purified. So just the reason I'm citing this pastime is that the point is that Daksha, nothing changed in Lord Shiva. It wasn't that like this whole thing happened and then like Shiva changed. Nothing changed. Daksha's consciousness changed before, because it was, that was the main difference of this pastime here. Before he was seeing Lord Shiva in a certain way, and then afterwards he's seeing the same Lord Shiva, we see him in a different way, because it's mentioned here that his consciousness was purified. So the same thing with all these things that I mentioned in Krishna consciousness, that if we're seeing some problem. Anyways, Prabhupada mentioned here with veneration and respect. And so that was one answer I was going to give. There's many answers that can be given, but we have to have that veneration and honor and respect for devotees. That will help. And the thing is, I'm mentioning all this because there's so much great treasure to be availed by the association of devotees. It's so much good can come from that. It's like, it's unbelievable. It's like, whew, like we can attain the highest, we will attain the highest rungs of Krishna consciousness and the highest bliss and happiness by associating with devotees properly and taking their the association to heart in their instructions. And if we mess that up, we'll be like Daksha. And it's, and it's amazing. This pastime is actually, I have a couple favorite pastimes, the Bhagavatam. This is actually one of them. But we can think about that actually. Nothing changed with Lord Shiva. Something changed with Daksha. So most of the times if we have problems with devotees, anyways, there may be some adjustments, things like that. But maybe we have to change and our Krishna consciousness and how we're seeing devotees or how we're behaving. But these are important points actually to know and to keep to heart and to progress in Krishna consciousness, and to make the best use of that best association. Because in this purport, Prabhupada trying to bring us to that point that the devotees are the best association, and we should utilize that opportunity and associate with them in the proper way. So I have a couple more points to make here, then I'll end. So you can bring up this verse also. So this is Canto 7, Chapter 9, Text 18. And then I'll bring up a verse on my phone too. So that way I have it. And so this particular verse is from Prahlad Maharaj. But if we associate with devotees properly, I discussed this thing about the mode of passion, longing, all these different things, but naturally we'll be happy. We'll relish Krishna consciousness and we'll be trained up properly. I have experience also just coming to Krishna consciousness. So I got some of Srila Prabhupada's books and I read them and I chanted, and I had bad association. And anyways, we won't talk about that. But it's just nasty, it's just like, ugh. I'm sure we all have had experience of bad association. I don't need to explain that to everybody here, I think. So getting Prabhupada's books and then, realizing I had bad association. And then it was just, I stopped associating with people and it was just whatever, just hanging out by myself. And it's like, that was like okay, but it wasn't fun. But then when I got the opportunity to meet devotees and associate with devotees, then it was like, all right. Life became blissful. And then it wasn't whatever. I was just sitting at home all day and then going to school and then not talking to anybody and then coming home and then just whatever, I was reading a little bit and chanting. And then just trying to avoid everybody. But then it's we have the positive association. And then when I got the association devotees and the mercy, it was there's so many things to do. It was I got to do prasadam distribution, and then I got to, I got to hear Srimad Bhagavatam classes and Bhagavad Gita. I got to be in kirtan. And then they taught me how to chant on japa beads, because I was just chanting out loud. So it's just when we get into the association of devotees, it is so many activities are there. Devotees teach us how to be Krishna conscious. Devotees show what it is that Krishna is looking for. It's what is Krishna looking for? What is he, devotees, that's what Krishna is looking for. People who are fully surrendered unto him, that are chanting his glories, that we see, what Krishna wants in the character of devotees. So anyways, there's some, of course we have to make that discrimination. Some devotees there's different grades of devotees, neophyte, Kanishta, Majjhima, and Uttama Adhikari. And we have to respect them accordingly and make distinctions. But in general, we should understand the position of devotees actually and be intelligent to avail their association. So this particular verse here. So my Lord Nrsimhadev, by engaging in your transcendental loving service in the association of devotees who are liberated souls, Hamsa, I shall become completely uncontaminated by the association of the three modes of material nature and be able to chant your glories of your lordship who are so dear to me. I shall chant your glories following exactly in the footsteps of Lord Brahma and his civic succession. In this way I shall undoubtedly be able to cross the ocean of nescience. So anyway, I'm not going to read the purport. But this verse is just to make that point that by associating with devotees, go back up to translation, that we become free from the three modes of material nature, and we're able to glorify the Lord properly. And anyways, I had another verse to read, but I'll just end there because that's sufficient. So if anybody has any questions or comments, yes.
Just like a few points that Prabhupada was making, and it's just like some practical things that I've seen throughout my life, just like the mode of passion, and like when lust and passion are like mixed together, and it's like Krishna says that how that's like the eternal enemy of the living entity.
Yeah.
And it's just like you see that again and again within devotee realms and outside of devotee realms. Like you just mess up your life completely. Like within the karmi world, I just knew so many people growing up, and then even through whatever high school and all that, just like did really dumb stuff, just like influenced by lust, by sex desire. They just completely forgot like about the consequences, and now they're just suffering as a result of that.
Yeah.
And it's just like just seeing that, and then it happens to you too. It's not that you're like, it's like you think you're above that, and then you're influenced by sex desire, and then everything goes out the window, and then you realize later, you come to your senses, and you're like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
So, and then even within devotee realms, how that association, that we start to lose association when we're influenced by mode of passion and like fueled by lust, and then we go towards whatever the sex is that we follow our sex desire, and then associate women privately and all of this. You've seen it so many times. I've seen it so many times in the last 8-9 years in the within the movement.
Yeah.
Brahmacharis who are like practicing for a good amount of time. It's just like they somehow I don't know. It's like for me, it's almost like unimaginable how they can like get like private association of women, like, and how I can even think of that.
Yeah.
But I guess it's just like that's like churning in the heart over time, that desire. And it's disappointing. It's just like, my God, just the ability to not control the senses. And I've observed those devotees over time, and like noticed like some characteristics of certain devotees that you can see certain things in, like the desire to serve.
Yeah.
Like those devotees who have like a great desire to serve, generally that they're able to overcome those things and come above that, because it's like that service attitude, like. Lust in the mode of passion is the enemy, but then we use that, like my body is full of lust, but like use it in book distribution and fuel that in that realm, or fuel it in doing different activities within the temple. I've seen devotees do that, and they become like really amazing devotees. Within those devotees who are looking just to do enough, like just so they can have their free time. And they read, they've done their reading, they've done everything, but then it's like, now I just want to space out, I don't want to go do more. But then I've seen devotees who are like, they do their reading, they take their nap, they're ready, they come and ask, hey Prabhu, can I do something more? And I was like, you see, okay, this devotee is like someone who's like thinking about service, who's actually like overcoming the mode of passion, and like, it's just like that, it's just that natural feeling of like, now, I have free time, what can I do to help, what can I do to serve Krishna? Instead of like, let me space out, let me go, just like do whatever I want, go on my phone and just like spend hours on it or whatever. It's just been like observance over the years that devotees who are just dedicated in that service attitude, they're able to overcome that like passionate nature, mode of passion and ignorance. And Prabhupada makes that point, so many times throughout his books.
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah. Thank you.
I don't want to go into a big discussion, but this is a bigger discussion, but we can have it on a small scale now. In this verse you brought up, it's Srila Prabhupada said something about like poisonous intelligence, seeing the spiritual master as an ordinary person.
Hellish intelligence, yeah.
And I forgot what the other instance was, but in regards to seeing the spiritual master as an ordinary person, we have Guru Ravanya.
Yeah.
To consider the spiritual master an ordinary person who disobeys instructions. So I was wondering, say for instance, we've all, Srila Prabhupada, he gave the order for all his disciples to become gurus, right?
Yeah.
And so, someone may join the temple and through sadhana bhakti may eventually become a guru. But then once that person takes up disciples, is it an offense for the disciples to see that person as a sadhana bhakta?
I mean, it's the thing is that like that. I mean, that may be there, but it's not like of importance. Like whether that like the guru is like like whatever nityasiddha or not nityasiddha, as far as that goes. Perfect or not perfect. The thing is that the instructions are there, but like the general outlook is that like one should like the Prabhupada said like one should see like the spiritual master like Superman. So that like reference should be there. It's not that one should like refer to a spiritual master. It's like
Should see him as Superman?
yeah, there should be like great reverence and respect for the spiritual master, but not like like whatever. My spiritual master is like just a sadhana siddha, and then your spiritual master is like whatever, like a nitya siddha, like gopi leela or whatever. But it's like the main thing is that our position is that we're suffering in the material world, and it's like the spiritual master's mercy that like he's lifting us up out of it. So, anyways, Prabhupada made the point like it doesn't matter like whether one's like sadhana siddha or nitya siddha or whatever it is. He says it's not important. Yeah. So, at least from our position, it's like we shouldn't really like care so much like about those things. So it's 9 o'clock. Should I just end? Okay. Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Srila Prabhupada ki.